Hi, I'm Riza Grant, National Beach Volleyball player, and you're watching Scoreboard on ACTN.
Trinidad and Tobago, welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACTN. It's always a pleasure every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 to 9 where we talk sports. And we're going to be talking track and field, but we're going to be talking track and field basically what's happening in the city of San Fernando and the environment. And first of all, let me introduce my guest for tonight, former Trinidad and Tobago athlete Hydiane Harper. Heidi, it's a pleasure. And for those of you who have been following Scoreboard for its inception, you would have known that Heidi was once my co-host when we had just started. So again, welcome.
Thank you, George. It's always a pleasure.
And we have Sherwin Joseph, the coach and I think the president of MAP Track Club, and they're also from San Fernando. And Heidi is also assistant coach now at Simplex Track Club, that club held by, coached by
Ganesh
Prasad. Welcome, and it's always a pleasure. And let's get straight into the ball. We had nothing in track going on for maybe the past 2 years. And most sporting organizations we heard have lost sportsmen and women who have either gone in different directions and done different things. What has taken place with Simplex and MAP? Any one of you all could start, but what has taken place, how you all managed to keep your athletes together, and what was put in place to keep them?
Okay, so I'll start with Simplex. With Simplex, before COVID, we had approximately, we have it broken up into developmental and elite athletes. In the developmental section, we had about 60-something young athletes, and that's between the ages of 6 to 14. And Mr. Ganesh Prasad, the head coach, he dealt with the athletes that were 14 plus. Now, with COVID, the age group 6 to 14, I basically can say they're non-existent now because they're not vaccinated, and one of the requirements to be on the track is you had to be vaccinated. 14 plus, those that are vaccinated and following the COVID guidelines given by the sport company, Ministry of Sports, Ministry of Health, we brought back out the ones that were vaccinated, approximately 15 of them, and we are allowed to use the Maniram Stadium from 3 to 5, and they have been training, they have been attending training every day, and the only thing that they're missing now is competition. So we have about approximately 15 athletes that are training presently.
Sherwin, your club, how you manage?
George, well, our numbers weren't as great as Simplex. You know, we are one of the younger clubs in the Southern District. However, it has always been a challenge. All right. I don't want to say competing with Simplex, but Simplex is a household name. But you know, we are holding our own nonetheless. You know, but you know, COVID has brought a substantial challenge to all clubs. You know, nationwide. Also in the Maniram Stadium as well. We had to more or less think out of the box. You know, use alternative venues like the 100 Stairs. You know, keep athletes active and that kind of stuff. You know, we were going batches and separate days. There is another area in the Marabella area that is the Capital City grounds, the recreation grounds. All right, we will have to use there periodically. When we were allowed to come back out after the initial lockdown, you know, just basically to keep athletes active.
But you saw a decrease in numbers?
Oh, yes. Even before the vaccination drive began, you know, some parents were, you know, more or less okay with, you know, letting the kids, you know, come back out and stuff, you know, once we keep them safe. Some parents will come and, you know, keep a keen eye on their offspring and stuff. However, there are others who you know, they're not that comfortable, they're not that brave, you know, so they said outright, you know, they're not comfortable with it and they're not going to allow their kids to come back out vaccinated or not.
But you see, the issue here really is that you need the young ones to start at an early age, because with all the development and everything. But there's no vaccine for these children at present. Right? So what are you going to do? Right? You're going to debar them from taking part in sports until maybe the next 2 or 3 years when you get a vaccine and you decide to vaccine children. I mean, what is going to happen? How are you all going to maintain this young group?
I mean, I think serious consideration has to go into how do we move forward, barring that there's no vaccine for that age group as yet. A lot of athletes in the developmental stage, or who would show potential, or who would go to the sport of track and field or any sport, would be lost if we continue on this path. So definitely we need to really go to the drawing board and find a way to bring them back out in a safe way. It is important that the heads or the persons that be really come together and start looking at that.
I agree with that 100%, George. As you would know, this developmental stage is what we would call our nursery. And without a nursery, you know, and anyhow you look at it, there is nothing coming after you reap your fruits, you know, that are already, you know, born. There's nowhere to go after that.
I know during the COVID, before this information was released by the Ministry of Sports, I think this weekend here, you all were having some little meets at the stadium. Right. How that was for only vaccinated athletes?
Right. So the athletes that currently use the stadium, and there are several athletes that comprise of, again, is 14 plus. These are athletes that are looking for scholarships. They have times, they have to run times to go to scholarship. There's upcoming CURFTA. We know that is happening. Jamaica has said that it is going to happen. So these athletes, is always a pleasure to represent a country. They look forward to that. That's the reason why they are training. So they're looking at CURFTA, they're looking World Championship is this year, and various meets both internationally, regionally, and locally. So they are training, and in an effort to keep them active and to keep their spirit up and the momentum going, we have little runoff in the stadium amongst the clubs that use the stadium. So this week, Thursday gone, we had a little competition, and it was just for the sport and to keep the spirit up.
How far setback has it been when you look at the athletes who you all have competing? Do you all have to maybe start all over again to get them, you know, to where they were before the pandemic?
In some cases, I would say yes. You know, because it depends on each individual and their geographical location. Some individuals would have facilities at their disposal. They might have a home gym, you know, some, because, you know, gyms were closed off during the lockdown and stuff. You would have some, they might have a field, you know, close to their home where they live, so they could, you know, get some work done and that kind of stuff. They might have a large yard, you know, but others, they would literally have nothing, you know, so it depended on each individual. And it would have been difficult with some of them, yes.
And are you all finding issues with children who took the vaccine but still hesitant to bring them out?
Not necessarily. I think the reason some of the parents actually took the vaccine for the younger ones is because they wanted them back out. So that was a reason why most of the athletes that we have at Simplex, they were vaccinated because they wanted to come back out on the track. And in addition, I think school, you need the vaccine to attend school. Oh no, I don't think so, yeah.
Now, when we look at track and field, I mean, if we go back to the Olympics, we didn't do all that well. Now, most of our top athletes are advancing in age. How do you all go about, you know, starting to handpick or to develop athletes to take these guys places?
And that's where competition is important, because mostly in the N3As will have gather their pool of athletes at these competitions locally at the stadium. You see the times for the athletes to run, the times or to be noticed, they need to run. Basically, that's what it is. They need to be out there, they need to run, they need to compete. For the Olympics last year, the local athletes were at a serious disadvantage. I think we had 2 or 3 meets, correct me if I'm wrong.
And those are experienced athletes.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Right?
all the athletes.
Right.
So they
far
were,
less the ones who isn't all that experienced.
right. So they were at a disadvantage, and I'm happy to see that they have lifted the ban. They have the return to play policy,
Yes.
and that will give the athletes now, the local athletes, a fair opportunity to compete, and we look forward to see what happens.
And this is why, George, you know, we were so happy that we had our, or you could call it our own in-house meet, during the course of last week, you know, among the clubs. This was actually spearheaded by Ganesh Prasad and who is the head coach of Simplex, and Daniel Doki, who is actually the vice president of my club. You know, these two, they came together and they realized, well, look, you know, this is something that's necessary, because incidentally, the developmental meet that was supposed to have been put on by the entries, it was cancelled, you know, in lieu of the return to play policy, so we can have everything more or less streamlined. Now we have the return to play policy launched by the Ministry of Sport and Ministry of Health, so we would now have the upcoming track meet. I think we have one this weekend, Heidi.
It's supposed to be, yeah.
Saturday at Maniramjan?
No, at the Hainsey Crawford Stadium.
Okay.
Yes. You know, so our athletes would not be that rusty.
Yeah,
you know,
they're ready.
Going into competition over the weekend.
Your club is a pretty new club,
Yes,
right?
yes.
In comparison to Simplex.
Oh, yes.
Right? What are some of the challenges that you are still facing, and you know, in that area?
Those are simple.
Well, I'm being honest with you, George.
No, when I say challenges, I mean in development and, you know.
All right, I will tell you something as well. Again, you know, since Daniel Doki came on board, he has always been around, but he's playing a much more active role in the club right now, you know, being the vice president and stuff, and he's taking his role extremely serious, you know. So we do a lot of scouting nationwide, you know, we have athletes from as far as the Muruga district, Rio Claro, Maya Road, that kind of stuff, you know, coming into the club. So we're doing some satellite club type initiatives. You know, we have approached some schools to utilize the grounds and that kind of stuff. You know, so athletes wouldn't always have to travel. You know, because as you know, the training times at the Maniramjan Stadium currently is 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So to finish school at 2:30 and to get to the stadium at 3 p.m. it's going to create, you know, a type of challenge. So if we can have a training base at the school, so we're going to develop the athletes for these schools, and when you're having secondary school sports and stuff, and you're taking some of the headache away from the PE teachers and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So, you know, those are some of the things we have on board right now.
Well, Simplex have any issues?
There's always room for improvement. Yes. For us, I think it's just competition. The athletes are training. They're there every day. We have very disciplined athletes who really apply themselves, and we'd like for them to step on the track and compete and see exactly what progress they're making. So, I mean, once they get competition, they'll be fine.
Okay, I know we have to take a break, but when we come back, I want to talk a bit about some of the venues in San Fernando. We have lost Karakara Park. God knows when Skinner Park is going to finish. And the track in Maniramjan is in a deplorable condition. So we're going to talk about some of the venues, because without proper venues, you could develop how much you want.
That is correct.
You need proper venues. So viewers, we'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to ACTN, and this is Scoreboard. We are talking track and field and, you know, what has been happening with COVID and basically track and field in the southern peninsula. Now, we don't have Skinner Park again. Karakara Park has now turned into a forest, right? The stadium, well, the stadium is in a mess right now. There's no proper lighting. The finish line, I think all the numbers have disappeared, and that whole thing has been dug up.
Mani Ramjan Stadium you're referring to?
Mani Ramjan Stadium. How do you all really prepare athletes on a surface that is not in good conditions, where athletes could be easily injured? You know, is it difficult in the sense of the athletes cannot, you know, go at their full potential or full speed on the track for fear of, you know, injury?
Basically, with any facility, it has to be maintained. And just general maintenance, I think, is what is needed. Now, as you mentioned, the finish line at Mani, I guess from having events over time, some of the track has been eaten up or worn out,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so you can see that it needs work. It really needs work, especially if we are to get permission to host a track meet. When it comes to training, because we understand that Mani Ramjan is all we have, the clubs at Mani, we actually have a good relationship. We tend not to use the same lanes. We tend to move around.
Yes.
And because we know this is all we have, and we have to
Besides
take
both
care
of
of
you all,
it.
how many clubs actually use?
I would think about 4 to 5
Yes,
clubs.
about four clubs, yeah.
Yeah, Stallion, MAP, the team from Pfizerbat, Simplex,
ZC Athletics as well.
yeah.
Okay.
And in numbers, I would not boasting, but Simplex might have the majority of athletes. And Mr. Prasad, he's very particular with how we use the stadium.
Okay.
With that being said, it is in need of repairs. Even before COVID, there were talks about
Yes.
having it fixed.
And talks are still on the way, George. And additionally, yes, the stadium or any facility would be in need of you know, maintenance, structured maintenance, and that sort of stuff. However, the additional challenge being presented by any stadium track, remember that is a specialist type of service that is required. So you can't simply go into a hardware, you know, and purchase material and lay it
But
down.
what was disappointing to me really is that they had done work on the football field,
Right.
right? They had done over the football field, right? So if you are doing over the football field, you're doing over the field to host football, right? Then why didn't you not fix the lights? Let's forget the track for the time being, right? If you're fixing a football field, then fix the lights. You didn't fix the lights, and then on top of that you have the track, and then there are some parts of the stadium where the chairs and everything, you know. So we can't be talking about development and producing top athletes when we don't have, you know, the proper venues, right? Palo Seco games, Palo Seco Velodrome is nowhere again, and these are places where we used to produce athletes,
competition,
right? Southern Games and Palo Seco games. I mean, we had the biggest runners. I'm sure you must be running.
Yes, I did.
You know,
and most recently, MAP games.
right, right, and the first MAP event I went to, you were planning a bigger one the following year.
Yes.
But because of the same track, you know.
Yes.
So, what are you all, as people in the track and field and from the south, what are you all looking forward to now that they have lifted the COVID restrictions, and you all are looking forward to, you said, Carifta Games and World Championships? I mean,
Well, George, right now we have 2 stadiums. We have Hazel Crawford Stadium and we have Dwight York in Tobago. Right, those are the 2 main stadiums we would use for any type of competition when you're looking at making times for teams and that kind of stuff. Having said that, we have been in talks for some time now through the entries and sport company to have some repairs done, you know, at the Mani Ramjan Stadium, and the critical areas would be at the finish line, as well as at the 100-meter start line, because at the 100-meter start line, if you don't get that area sorted out, you know, in good time, it's gonna end up just as the finish line being eroded and ripped up and that kind of stuff, and the starting blocks, you know, the starting blocks would not be able to hold. You know, for the younger athletes, the under 11, under 13 and stuff is okay, but when you start dealing with the power sprinters from under 20 go up, these blocks kick out and you're looking at injury to athletes and that kind of stuff. So we really need repairs done to the Manny Ramjan Stadium as soon as possible. Even if it's just those two areas, and we will be sufficient. That will be sufficient for us for now.
Right.
And we would like to host meets in Manny too. We clubs literally look forward to traveling south to attend a track meet.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. When you look back at Southern games and Paloseco games, and I remember when they used to have the Manny Ramjan games, right?
Yes,
Those are games that, you know, people will come with some, you understand? So, I mean, it's unfair for Simplex or for MAP to have host the event and have to take it all the way to Port of Spain.
Correct.
Right? Because you're depriving the people of South an opportunity to go and see the young athletes. And
George, I could guarantee you, my games is not going to Port of Spain. It is not going to Port of Spain. This is for the Southern community.
Yeah. As it's already Southern community, I always remember a year I went to Simplex games.
In the community.
In the community. Sherwin? I even run a race here to start behind that camera. And when I leave, I get a big Pyrex. It reminds me of when I was small. And you go to these games, and I never see, but everybody getting prize, you know. It didn't have no losing. I mean, you had the first and second and third, but everybody coming out of a race without a prize, you know.
And just that's what we're talking about in nursery. That's the excitement.
Exactly.
You would just have children, people from any community coming out to participate, coming out to run, and right there you would get some individuals with talent.
Because actually that was the my first time seeing Heidi's son.
Okay.
Right? And she coaxing him to run. He was a little toddler. You understand? Here now he's doing good.
He would love to compete.
You understand? So we need, and sports and what we're talking about here is a way of preventing crime.
Yes.
Because if you don't give the children from an early age somewhere to go and burn off that steam, they will find somewhere else, they will find something else to go.
That's correct.
Right? So we really need this, and then you come now, you ain't fix money, but you build a stadium in Diego Martin. So if we are to take pattern, eventually the stadium in Diego Martin will come just like money, because if you can't maintain what you have now, right, and you're building, right, I would have thought when I heard they were developing Skinner Park, I say, well, they'll do something with money, you understand, in the meantime, so people could have used, you understand, and then, right, so you're going to build Skinner Park now, and all the investors are going to be placed on Skinner Park when Skinner Park open, so money will continue to go down.
And George, I would tell you, Manny Ramjan Stadium needs a fair amount of work, but to get it usable in the shortest period of time, just 2 areas in the track. And I keep on emphasizing that, just 2 areas in the track.
It's not the whole track.
It's not the entire track. The finish line or the 100-meter start.
But have you all lobbied to the...
Yes, Mr. Prasad and Sherwin,
Daniel Doki, we have gone through Daniel Doki.
What's the latest?
We got some feedback from the sport company via the entries, and basically they are looking at it currently based on budgetary allocation, that kind of stuff. Yeah, they're looking at it.
And we even have Garkara Park to say, well, you could take your events to the Garkara Park. I saw a video of Garkara Park. It's a forest right now.
Yeah, it's scary.
Right? Palo Seco is...
But I must say that the management and staff are Mani Ramjan Stadium and Sport Company have been very accommodating to the athletes. They allow us fair enough usage based on what guidelines and rules. So if you call and you ask, once you follow the guidelines, they have been very, yes, Darren Edwards, he has been very accommodating, and I mean, he's a sports person too, and he understands sports and he understands what an athlete needs. So while we are saying this, and we are not beating on Darren because we know it's out of his hands.
That's totally out of actually he's out of his hands because he's just the manager of the stadium. He can't go and get money and
so they have been very accommodating and they allow
he's a nice guy.
He understands the challenges that clubs go through. He tries to work for us.
And they won't allow it to run on the grass, right?
No. Not at all.
No, so now, are you all in recruitment? Now that everything has opened back up, are you all going to be in recruitment mode now to get back,
I'm doing some heavy recruiting.
Yeah, but the return to sports policy is based on vaccinated persons and the age group 6 to 14, there's no, well, to 12, there's no vaccine being offered to that age group.
Once you could provide a safe environment and you have the children in small numbers, because I'm sure you have a number of coaches and you have them, and you get the permission from the parent, I think we could bring out these little kids, because these little kids have been inside for over 2 years now, just staring at a computer screen all day, right? And
so
doing absolutely
that's where the
nothing.
Discussion needs to start.
Well, George, funny you should say that. We got a batch of athletes recently. You have an initial conversation with them and the parents and stuff. If you have been involved in any type of sports before, what type of sports, when was the last time you're involved in sports? And almost all of these athletes were saying, okay, the past 2 years, some of them they're in like what form 1, form 2 now. So the last time they would have done anything, and not for the present school, would have been primary school just before SCA time. So they're in secondary school now, and you have form 1, form 2 students, 100% online classes. Or they would have hybrid classes, some online and some face-to-face as we began to open back out. So these kids have been doing nothing. So you're getting people now from ground zero. So this is the industry that we have to work with.
Yes, it's important that we get them back out on the track.
As quickly as possible.
Like I said, Simplex had over 60 athletes that age group that was showing tremendous potential.
I know we don't have much time, but I could quickly mention secondary school football. You know how much young people have lost the opportunity to get a scholarship?
Wow.
But football playing in Jamaica, but that's another topic. Let me thank you all very much for spending this time with us and enlightening us as to what's taking place with Simplex and MAP. We want to wish you all the best, and now that things have been opened up, we hope that both of your clubs will go from strength to strength, and I will pay you all a visit and see how things are progressing.
Thank you very much, George. It's always a pleasure.
We have come to the end of another edition of Scoreboard. Here we were talking to Hydiane, Harper and Sherwin Joseph about track in the city of San Fernando and environs. And there's a lot of work to be done, and we hope that as the weeks and months go by, things will improve. Before I end the program, just mention quickly, on this day in history, do you all know that Michael Jordan scored his 10,000 points? Food for thought. Join me next week. Remember, there's a repeat tomorrow at 1 p.m. and also on Saturday. But join me next week as we host another edition of Scoreboard. Have a blessed week ahead.